Whether or not we plan to exceed them, it helps to know the operating limits of a watch. Oftentimes, it's right there in the name. The Omega Seamaster Diver 300 is water resistant to, you guessed it, 300 meters, making it a serious tool watch. But there's a duality at work here, because what you can only learn from experiencing this piece in the metal is how smoothly it operates as an everyday watch. Technically, it's as capable as ever, but now, it's got sharp aesthetics to match. That's what the Omega Seamaster Diver 300 is all about. It's a proper dive watch, but the black and white motif manages to add a touch of style and flair that no other Seamaster Diver 300 has managed to capture so far. This model has always had something particularly stylish about it. After all, it was famously worn by the suavest Bond of them all, Pierce Brosnan, in no less than 5 Bond films. If that's not a testament to the watch's rakish charm, I don't know what is.
This looks familiar.
We've made some improvements.
Have you indeed?
4 hours out.
It was one of the first watches I ever fell in love with, mostly due to the Bond connection, and I've owned one now for almost half my life. Now, years later, I have the newest iteration right here in front of me. So this is the Omega Seamaster Diver 300. One of the defining characteristics of this generation is this white ceramic dial in almost a toothpaste color. The waves are still present, this time they're laser etched, making them a little thicker, a little fatter. The new applied indices are taller, and in a way, more legible. And there's a certain three-dimensionality to the dial, a lot of depth to it. The hands are polished, but they're almost black polished, so there's a ton of contrast between them and the dial as well. Add to that a helium escape valve, a ceramic bezel, a double-coated anti-reflective sapphire crystal, and you come to realize that Omega has fundamentally changed the watch, instead of just adding a few visual flourishes. It's got all the hallmarks of a proper tool watch, but it comes together in a way that makes the whole package feel dressy. It's the definition of a high-low watch that's at home in literally every situation. Another aspect of its versatility is its wearability. The design ethos of some dive watches could be described as beefy bricks of metal on the wrist, but this just doesn't fall into that category. It's also quite a bit thinner than most dive watches, and because of that, it wears nice and low on the wrist. The bezel is angled down, and there's still a slight dome to the crystal. I have it on the rubber strap. Now, the Seamaster Bracelet is known as one of the best in the biz, but I think there's something very cool and effortless about this rubber strap. And being able to switch between the two is what really touches on the duality I was talking about before. This watch can go up and go down, easily. But what really makes the watch is what's behind the dial. The new master chronometer caliber 8800. It's resistant to fields of magnetism rated at 15,000 Gauss. It beats at 25,200 vibrations per hour, and of course, features Omega's famed Co-Axial escapement. Omega's Co-Axial caliber 8800 is unequivocally beautiful. It's a pretty little thing to look at, and you can through the display case back. It doesn't need to look that good, but it does. It's a dive watch. It could have a closed case back. Instead, it's on full display right there. But that's not to say the watch is perfect. There are a few things that aren't quite wrong with it, but might not be quite right with it. First, the helium escape valve. Historically, it's been a bit of a point of contention among dive watch enthusiasts. Do you need one or not? Probably not. And on this one, it's not even subtle. It's been redesigned into this conical shape, and again, I'm not sure if you actually need one, but it has become a signature element of this watch. Another polarizing element is the skeleton hands. In theory, there's less surface area for lume to be applied to, and it also could make legibility more difficult. Now, I don't have a problem with legibility, but I can see where, in theory, that might be true. But it's a signature design element of the Seamaster Diver 300. It's not going anywhere. It kind of makes the watch, even. Another thing that I did notice that I'm not particularly keen on is that there's a pretty prominent gap between the dial and the date wheel. And that, to me, suggests that the watch isn't as tight as it could be, that there's extra space in there. But if you have to have a date, which historically this watch has, it's nice to see that it's now placed at 6 o'clock as to not throw off the symmetry of the dial. I like that. I don't like dates on any dive watches, but if it has to be there, 6 o'clock is a nice place for it. I think if you've historically been a fan of the Omega Seamaster Diver 300, then this execution is a home run. The tech-forward movement, updated aesthetics, and the high wearability factor amount to what I think is a terrific value. The watch is priced at $4,900 on the rubber and $5,200 on the bracelet, making it one of the most affordable coaxial movements in Omega's lineup. And what's more, they're readily available. You can walk into any boutique and buy this watch. Without naming names, some of Omega's competitors in Geneva can't say the same. When you consider that there are plenty of folks flocking to the boutiques to buy comparable watches that sell for more when you can actually buy them, and offer less in movement technology, I think that makes this modern classic hard to beat.